So when I put the ignition on, I get two orange lights, and I don't get the ignition light on. I'd expect that to come on. We can try and identify what these two lights are. I'm going to start it. They both go off. And then that one comes back on later. I've turned the ignition back on, so that is coming back on when the oil pressure is dropping. That one's coming back on straight away, which means it's the ignition. So we're going to pull that out and have a look at it. So, looking on this is the voltage stabilizer. This takes the 12 volts from the car battery and reduces it down such that you have a more independent, stable voltage for the fuel gauge. Doesn't have a temperature gauge on this car, does it? So we're going to have a look at the wiring. We've got green and yellow on this light. We've got blue and white on the light round the corner. We've got red and white going to this one, and this one here is brown and yellow and looks like just white. And then at the bottom here we've got nothing, and that's the fuel gauge. So that one there which is missing is the high beam warning light, which could mean it just fell out the back when I pulled the gauge out, the dial out. This one's just fallen out. I'll put that back in. Sorry for the wobbly camera. I'm really not used to trying to film whilst working a car. This is the Speedo drive as well, for those of you that don't already know that. So I'm going to look up which wires are which. This one here, which I think is the ignition, should go down the bottom here. This one didn't seem to come on at all. This one I think is the oil light. That light there, which I think is okay. Okay, so this is now correctly the ignition switch on the red light at the bottom. On the oil one, this is from the oil pressure sensor on the engine. This is not the correct official wiring because we've had to reuse different wires, and that would normally be a different wiring. In fact, that would normally be this one, I believe. Green, brown and green, and those ones are now disconnected, which is the one that was yeah, and this is this one here is just panel light. So the panel light is only a single wire going in, so this needs the earth connections with these screwed onto the bodywork. That needs to be screwed back on properly next time. The oil pressure, I think, maybe has its own earth, because this wire here goes back and attaches back here, I think, to the bodywork to make sure that you've always got an earth connection, so that if you do have low oil pressure, it's a safer chance of you having the light come on rather than relying on the bodywork. The panel lights are both single wires, they need the earthing through this bodywork, as does the high beam light. So the high beam light is this one, blue and white, that comes down to here, which is the blue light on the front. I've just been testing that out and that doesn't work. I've used a kind of separate earth to try it out, so I've attached these to the bodywork temporarily just to try it out. That didn't come on at all, and I've tracked that down to a broken bulb, which I will show now. So it needs a new bulb. Could be an LED in there. I don't think you can use an LED in the ignition one because that forms part of the circuit to the dynamo. And this is another panel light here. So it's partly rearranged and corrected. Found another fault, so I've got a couple of little jobs to do, and that's life with an old car. Just need to get on and sort it out. So the oil pressure light and the ignition warning light are now in what I believe is the correct place, and they're very nice and clear and visible. If I put the headlights onto dipped and do the switch on the floor to put the high beam on and off, I can't see anything happening there. I've just put a brand new old school filament bulb in it. Should be 2.2 watt on there, but I just don't see it. For testing purposes, I've actually fitted an extra earthing wire. So this goes between the body of the dial and the body of the car. So with that in place, you should be able to try out the headlamp bulb, which is this one with the blue and white wire. So if I put the dipped beam back on and hold that on there, you can see that it is actually going on and off with the action of the foot switch, but you can't see it. You can't see it. It doesn't show up on the blue indicator part. So just to show you it working when it's connected onto the back of the space, and you can just about see the light coming off there, on and off, on, off, on, off. So from Classic Car LEDs, which I've used before, I've bought a couple of flat fronted screw fitment panel lights. I bought a blue LED one, which I think might be good for the headlamp. I bought a different old school filament bulb, but this is a 3 watt, so it should be brighter than the 2.2s that you can't see. And I've also bought this larger LED array, and I thought I'd try some of them out, see how they compare. So firstly, the 2.2 watt. And this is what it looks like. I don't know how well this test is going to work because of the auto exposure of the camera. This is the 3-watt bulb. This is the 3-watt bulb on, off, on, off. This is the longer LED one. It's got quite a nice white light to it, but it also kicks out light sideways, which probably doesn't really reach the part of the blue indicator. This is the short body LED one, which has got very good light to it. So this is the blue LED one, again short body, and the auto exposure really doesn't capture the full beauty of this very bright blue light. Right, so now I'm going to test the blue LED light out in situ. So if we turn the high beam on, we can see that it's quite a distinct change. And if we compare that to the brightness of the oil and ignition light, visibly they look quite similar. So I guess my only concern is whether that is too bright at night when you're using high beam. I don't think it would be, but that would need a proper road test, and the car's not at that point at the moment. I will swap back for one of the other flat white LEDs and see how that looks like. Right, we now have the short body white LED in situ. So I'm going to put the ignition on so you can see other lights. The lights are on here, just off the screen. That goes on and looks pretty similar to the blue one. So I think they're probably both quite good. Yeah, not an obvious difference, unless we could compare them side by side. I think I might be able to do that in the edit. I will put the blue one back in and probably call that a day. Sorry for all the wobbling, I'm trying to hold everything in 2 hands. Really need a stand for the camera. But the blue one's back in, and we're going to keep it as that. Probably one last thing to mention here is the ignition light needs to be a traditional filament bulb, not an LED. That's because it forms part of the dynamo circuit. So I've already installed a pair of these short body white LEDs as the panel lights for the speedo dial. You really can't see the panel lights very well in daylight, so I will probably try and do a video later tonight when it's darker outside. Okay, so this is the Morris Minor at night. It's very dark. Let's put some lights on and see how the panel glows. And there it is. This is with the short bodied white LEDs in, which I think is quite a nice effect really. So with the lights on dip beam, this is the view of the dashboard. Doesn't seem overly bright, that's okay I think. And we'll just try out the ignition if I can find the right key. Let's just put that in. There we go. So that's the panel lights